The things that have inspired me to keep going after I've had my own failures are a number, and I'll just go through them. I think the first and foremost is having heard from parents, from teachers, and from mentors about the difficulties and challenges that other people have had. In some cases, it's the stories that you have been told by teachers and by mentors and by friends. In some cases, it is books that you have read about the various setbacks that leaders, political leaders, leaders in business, that they have had and that they have overcome. And I've always found listening to parents and to mentors and to bosses, reading about the adventures of other people, I have found that very inspiring in saying to me that this is a setback I have had or I'm having. Others have had such setbacks before. Others have overcome these setbacks. And therefore, there is no reason why I should not be able to overcome this setback as well. So I think that the first is the example and the encouragement from mentors and from family, and the readings that you have done about people. So if there's one thing I would very much encourage all of you to do is very much read the biographies and read a lot of autobiographies or articles about people and their journeys. And in all of those articles and all of those books, you will see difficult times that they have overcome, and they can be an example, to you. That's one. Then I think the second is also a certain faith. This faith may be a religious faith. In some people, it's not a religious faith. It is just a belief that if you just keep going, if you keep attempting what people say is difficult and impossible, that you will get there. And for others, it's a sense that you're in this world for a purpose, and that you will always be guided along the correct path. So I think that your faith, whether it be religious or whether it's non-religious, I think that that is also a source of strength in as you face the challenges of life. And then the third thing I would also like to say to you, I think has also helped me overcome it, is also, I would say it's my family and my marriage. I think that for all of us, one spouse is also a source of strength in overcoming challenges, because the sense that there are two of you facing the future is very powerful, is very encouraging, and I have been lucky, fortunate, and that I have had a very encouraging wife in my own lifetime as well. So for me, those I would say are the main sources of my strength in overcoming challenges. First of all, in order to be a change agent, you must have some analytical skills. That is, it's a skill and it's an ability to analyze things as they are today, to analyze and think through how you want things to be in the future. All right. And you must have some analytical skills that enable you to work out what are the steps that you need to move from where you are today to where you want to be in the future. So that set of analytical skills, I would say, is very important for any change agent. So I want to repeat that. Looking at the world as you think it should be after the change has been effected, considering where you are at a particular moment, where you are right now, and analyzing that, and then breaking that down into certain steps to get from where you are to where you want to be. So that analytical ability, I would say, is first and foremost an important attribute that you must have in order to be a change agent. That is the first. Then the second thing I think is important is that you must have the ability to live with a certain amount of uncertainty. And by that, I mean anybody who wants to be a change agent has to accept that during that process, things will not always be very clear to you. The path will not be totally clear to you. You'll have a sense of the steps that you have to take, but not everything will be clear to you. And therefore, you must have this ability to live with that uncertainty and still keep going, believing that you will solve the various problems that come along, all right, as and when they arise. So that is often referred to as living through the fog or living through and walking through a harmattan. That is often how it's referred to. But it's the capacity to live with that uncertainty and still keep going. Then the third thing I think that is important for a change agent is a certain amount of courage. Now, it is always easier to live and to remain in the status quo because the status quo is familiar. The status quo you already know. The status quo does not present as many fears. But things that are new, things that you have to build anew, require courage because there's often opposition to the changes that you want to put in place. The opposition comes from those people who benefit from the new order, and there are also opposition from people who are simply afraid of new things. So a certain amount of courage is a very important attribute for anybody who's a change agent. And then I think the last thing that is important, or rather the last two things that are important, I think, is the ability to build a team, because it is the case that change is never, ever achieved by a single individual. It is achieved by groups of people, by teams. And an important part of your success will be how you build a team that combines different strengths, because you will have certain strengths and certain weaknesses, and you want to be matched with people where you don't have a strength, they possess that particular type of strength, and coming together, the sum is of course greater than each individual part. So the ability to build teams is important. And then the last is that you must develop an ability to communicate to people what your vision is, what you are trying to achieve, so that people are mobilized behind the kind of change that you are trying to achieve. I think that these qualities are within most people, and I'm sure that they are within all of you who are sitting in this audience today. I think that it is for you to recognize them within yourselves, it's for you to develop them, and it's for you to apply them in making the changes that are necessary for you in your lives, in making the changes that are necessary in Nigerian society, so that we can build and we can live in a better society and a better country.
So, sir, the last question we just would like to ask, as someone who has piloted growth in various sectors in Africa, like consultancy, financial services, and telecommunications, and of course, with your interest in education, what lessons have you learned so far that you believe would help anyone listening to you today that desires to be a change?
All right. I think the first lesson, a couple of lessons, I would say, and let me some I will be repeating themes that I have already mentioned, but I will go over them. The first is that things, when you start, always look impossible. So by that I mean that in each of the times in my own life in which I have attempted something, whether in whatever sectors that I have been in, at the beginning it always looked frightening. It always looked very difficult. It always looked very possible. But as they say, the only way in which you can reach the limits of what is possible is to attempt what is impossible. And even if you don't get to what you attempted to be, you always find that you travel much, much further than you imagined you were going to travel. And therefore, the willingness to try is important. I think that there was one great soccer player who said that it is true that it is not every shot that you attempt does does not become a goal. That's true. Many times you shoot and you miss, but the one thing that is clear is that if you don't attempt to shoot, you will never score a goal. So it is always better to keep trying to shoot, knowing that sometimes you will miss and sometimes you'll get there, because you will always travel further, or you'll always be a greater soccer player than the person who makes no attempt. So the first thing I would just say is that it's that willingness to confront things that people say are difficult. That is the first, I would say. Uh, I think that the second, I think, and I think this is going to be increasingly important in your own generation, is that in a lot of those cases, one has had to build bridges with different people. And I would urge all of you in your own lives to build bridges across religions, to build bridges across ethnic groups, to build bridges with people who may think differently from you. Because I do believe that in succeeding and in building successful organizations, you will need the support of people across our country. And I fervently believe that diverse organizations and inclusive organizations will do better than those that are not. And I have found that I have found talent in all sections of our country, whether north, south, west, or east.